What's up, everybody? I'm Raph, and this is Petunia, the hognose snake, and we're here with some bad news. Harry moved on, and we're going to talk a little bit about his story and why he was such a cool frog. But yeah, that's kind of why Petunia is out here. Some dark humor to help us cope. Is that hognose snakes love eating amphibians like frogs. So like, subscribe. We're gonna get right into it. So let's talk a little bit about what made Harry so special. You might be saying, Raph, it's just a frog, man. Yeah, it's kind of true, but Harry was actually like the Rambo of frogs. Here we go, we're gonna have a little story time. So Harry was actually field collected here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Not by me, but by a couple of my friends. They thought it would be cool to have a pet frog, I guess, in their dorm room. So a couple of months go by and they don't know where Harry was. But as they were cleaning out their dorm room, they found this little frog still kicking, again, stuck in a dorm room. As an amphibian, needs good access to water, right? I guess being that the conditions are so harsh up here, any wildlife that survives up here is pretty well adapted to adverse conditions. And Harry's clearly no different because, while the temperatures were right, I'm sure he found some bugs to eat, but really, how many could he have found? And again, that water thing is pretty important because it's pretty easy to kill an amphibian by drying it out. And I don't think they had any water in their dorm room, just where Harry was able to access it, maybe in a bottle or something like that, but I don't think he was getting in there. So just the fact that he survived this ordeal was pretty impressive. When Harry was located once again, my friends called me because they knew I was into this kind of thing. I'm pretty sure we only had Roshi and Kami, our leopard geckos, and Barnaby, our bearded dragon at the time. I think that's accurate, because then we got Billy in December. Yeah, so Harry was our fourth pet, our first pet amphibian. We had an Exoterra enclosure set up well for a frog. It wasn't intentionally set up for a frog, but it was given to us by my buddy Justin, so shout out to Justin. And it would definitely be perfect for Harry. It had a nice branch coming out and a nice little background, something that he can climb all over and try to simulate the wild, because that's where he's from and that's where ultimately he wanted to go back to. And on top of the enclosure, obviously having a few insectivore reptiles, we had some food to give them. So that was the first thing we did. We rushed over with some mealworms, I think, at first. And we were going to see if we could try to nurse him back to health. Yes, we could have returned him to the wild. There's a couple reasons that I didn't. Number one was that when he was collected, it was nice and warm out. Great condition for frogs to be active. It doesn't usually get too warm on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but definitely warm enough for gray tree frogs. He was a gray tree frog. I didn't mention that, I don't think. So it was warm when he was collected, and then, the dorm room stayed at room temperature. I don't know, maybe around the 70s or so, and that's good conditions for this type of frog. And there are plenty of gray tree frogs in the wild where we live, but the problem is it was November by the time they saw them. And November here it's really no joke. We already had snow on the ground. It was getting really cold, and these wild frogs, they can acclimate to that, but it takes a little bit of time. You can't take them from 75 and put them in 15-degree temperatures and just expect them to be okay, really. He didn't have time to winterize himself. And that brings us also to reason number two. Harry didn't move around too great. I don't know, maybe he wasn't getting adequate amounts of calcium while living in the dorm room or what, or if this had happened previous, but his toe pads were all kind of messed up and crossed over, and he couldn't really move quite as well as some of these frogs can, because they're really nimble and agile creatures. So for these reasons, not only was he not going to go into the wild that day, but we decided, it'd probably be nice to just keep him around. And then something that happened with Harry is that, roommates that Rachel and I were living with, they didn't want animals in the house. So we had a friend that was willing to just kind of hold our pets at the time. And we'd go over and care for them and help, but the day-to-day was left to our good friends. Harry got a lot of food in that time. But he was already pretty big by the time we found him. He wasn't completely obese. He wasn't moving any differently, but he got nice and plump. He was big to begin with, which kind of makes me think that Harry was already kind of old. These frogs live 7 to 9 years on average, usually, in the wild or in captivity. So really, we have no idea how old he was. Wishful thinking says he was on the older side, right? And he lived a full life. When we got him back, we dialed the food back a little bit, and everything was fine. He went back to a normal shape, and just a really good frog. He was a male, so we would hear him chirping all the time, looking for a lady, I guess. We found, actually, an unsexed gray tree frog when we were visiting home back in New York. Same kind of situation. It was stuck in my parents' bathroom, actually, and it looked really scrawny. So, again, we felt we weren't going to put it back in the wild. We thought, well, Harry could get a little roommate. Tree frogs are usually good cohabiting. Do your research on the specific species. But they didn't have a problem. If anything, that little frog kind of gave Harry help in a lot of ways. He was always messing with him, jumping on him. And it was really cute, but Harry also didn't seem to mind at all. They were both pretty respectful of each other while eating. We put enough food in the enclosure at once. But, I like to think, and again, I don't want to anthropomorphize these animals, but I think they were friends in a way. A lot of the time, they kind of minded each other's space, but they never really got in any kind of altercations. So, like I said, Harry chirped relatively often. We always knew he was here. But the past couple weeks, it was, a lot. Like, we were hearing him chirp all the time. All times of day, too, and usually it's late at night. So, that kind of got me thinking, like, maybe he's not doing so hot. He's eating this whole time. They had water. We kept the humidity right in there. I don't know if that it's winter time and we let the reptile room get a little bit colder. We're not brewmating anybody, but we let it drop a little cooler in here just to give all the animals at least a sense of a seasonal change to help them cycle their bodies and everything. I don't know if that's what did it or what, but so we were hearing them chirp a lot, and then one day we just weren't. And when we looked in the enclosure, we could usually see both of them. Sometimes Harry would bury himself down in the dirt a little bit. I don't know. Maybe, because the top layer is going to dry out before the deeper layers of the substrate. So maybe he just wanted a little extra moisture, whatever it was. But we weren't seeing him for a few days straight. And while he was chirping like every day, we weren't hearing those cute little chirps anymore. So the enclosure was due for a full clean anyway. That glass is usually pretty dirty, as you're probably seeing in these clips. They climb all over it, so it's hard to keep up with the glass. We made sure the substrate was not molding, not a bunch of dead insects in there, not a bunch of poop, but the glass was always hard to keep up with. So anyway, we were gonna change out the substrate, clean the glass. We were gonna do it anyway, but something gave me the feeling that I would find something that I didn't love. And that's exactly what happened. So while I transferred Cookie, the younger frog, into a cup with a nice wet paper towel to wait out the clean, I was taking some of the furnishings and decor out of the enclosure, and Harry had buried himself one last time. It's pretty interesting from an educational standpoint how he had a couple spots that he was always in, and he didn't just stay there to die. He buried himself, a grave, if you will. But that's kind of interesting because, mammals do that too. Common pet mammals like cats and dogs, they'll kind of go off to a secluded spot and to live out their last breaths. So it was just pretty interesting to see that Harry did that as well, being a frog, you know, because, you know, we like to think that these are clueless animals, amphibians, reptiles, things like that. But, you know, there's definitely a lot going on. It's just hard because we judge intelligence on, like, can they do a human task? Like, hey, Petunia, what's 2 plus 2? Yeah, so they can't do that. But also, if we were in the wild and I had to eat amphibians like Petunia would, she'd beat the crap out of me getting to these amphibians. There's no way. She can look at that little shovel nose. She was trying to burrow into my sweatshirt sleeve. So the intelligence is all relative, and especially, you know, Harry didn't always seem the most intelligent because, especially when he saw food, he was just biting everything. He was hanging on the tongs. Harry being our first amphibian, and amphibians were never anything that I anticipated I'd be keeping. Not because they're not amazing, but it's just, you know, the handleability compared to keeping up with the water and everything when I got a bunch of these scaly boys too. It's not something I would have went out of my way for, but Harry definitely made the experience worth it. Yeah, you know, it's just one of our first pets together. And yeah, there's Chirp. No more Chirp. Come on. That's the story of the Rambo frog himself, Harry. It's sad dealing with something like this, but of course it's part of the circle of life, right? And I don't know where he is, right? So I'm not gonna say he's in a better place, but anyway, he fulfilled his duties of this earth, and I wanna thank you guys for, if you made it this far, just kind of helping me give him a little bit of a send off that he deserves. And lastly, I'm not gonna say like and subscribe in honor of Harry, because frankly, Harry wouldn't care. Harry just wanted bugs. We do bring you reptile content, usually in a little bit better mood than this. Reptile content, a little bit of amphibian stuff. Hey, we still got one frog left and a couple of mantises that are right behind you guys that I'm looking at, and the ghost mantis needs some food. But anyway, I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you care to hang out and watch some other videos, go ahead, check out Red Ribbon Reptiles, the whole channel. And like and subscribe. We're almost at 100, so if you want to be part of the first 100 subscribers, that'd be great. Anyway, yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Say bye, Petunia.